Hello everyone, I'm glad to welcome you once again. By seeing the screen, you should have get an idea what topic we are going to discuss today. HTTP protocol basics it is. In my previous video, I explained the difference between HTTP and HTTPS in security perspective. But here in this video, I'm going to explain how a web client communicates a web server and how the web server responds to that request. If you just see the communication between a web browser and a web server, it might look simple, but trust me guys, both web browser and web server is doing lot of works in the background to give us a web page. I'll try to give the truth as much as I can in this video. And why are you waiting? Let's do it now. Before studying the HTTP communication in detail, let me simply explain the TCP handshake here. The browser wants to know some information from the browser. The web browser wants to get some information from the web server, right? So, the web browser obviously initiates the traffic. It will be the client. It will first send the SYN packet, and for that, the website will respond with acknowledgement flagged packet, and the web server sends its own sync packet. And again, when the client receives the sync packet from the web server, it responds with its acknowledgement packet. So this is what we call TCP three-way handshake. And along with this acknowledgement flagged packet, the web client also sends the HTTP request to the web server. Once the website receives the HTTP request, it processes that request and it responds to the web browser. That is called HTTP response. I'm not going to explain about this three-way handshake. Our main aim is to know about the HTTP communication between the web client and web server. I'm just going to explain it in detail. First of all, let me introduce my lab to you. This is my simple lab I'm going to use to showcase the HTTP communication. This is my web server. This is where I hosted my simple HTTP web application, and this is my web client. So I'm using my Kali machine as my web client. I'm going to use console in Kali machine to show the HTTP communication. Not only console, I'm going to use couple of other tools to show the HTTP communication. As I explained in my previous video, HTTP is a plain text protocol, so there is no encryption. Keep that in mind. When we trace the traffic between the web client and the web server, we will be able to view the whole communication since it is a plain text protocol. And let me mention about this network. This is my lab network, which is nothing but this one 192.168.11.0/24. So all these two machines and my PC is in the same network. So I'll be able to reach both the machines from my web browser itself. This particular web server is running on this IP 11.11. So this is my simple web server. When I click this link, it redirects me to the YouTube channel of mine. Okay, before going to spin off this web server, the website, I'm going to use a well-known application called Wireshark. I already explained the excellent features of Wireshark in my earlier video. You can go through that. Now it is time to capture the traffic between my PC and the web server I'm running in my lab. Here we can enter the capture filter. I'm going to filter the web server IP alone, and I'm choosing my lab adapter. Now let's enter. I'm filtering HTTP alone here. Let's reload. Okay. After reloading, I can see the traffic which I initiated from my PC to the web server. When I follow the HTTP stream, I'll be able to see the whole traffic, the communication happened between the client and the server. As I explained in my earlier video, the content highlighted in red indicates the request sent by the client, and the content the content highlighted in blue indicates the response from the server. First of all, let's start from the request. In the request first line, it starts with the HTTP message, or you can say it as HTTP methods. There are multiple methods used by the web browsers or the web client to get the certain information from the web server. The get information is widely used, more popular method to get some information from the web server. There are few other popular HTTP methods. For example, let's say post method. If you are entering a website, it when it asks you to fill a form or ask you to enter some information, you are giving some information to the web server. In that case, the web server usually takes post method. You are using post method to post some information to the web server. So in that case, this method will be changing. Apart from this get and post methods, there are few other methods called put, head, trace, and there is one special method called options. If you use options instead of get, then the web server will reply what are the methods will it support. These HTTP method manipulation techniques mostly used by the penetration testers and ethical hackers to study the behavior of the website or web application. So if you are learning penetration testing or in cybersecurity, if you are in cybersecurity, then you must learn about the behavior of web application and the communication details of uh, the web traffic. And the next one, can you see this forward slash? This slash is nothing but the path. So this is my web server CLI. I am using Apache web server. For Apache web server, this is the default path. This is where the HTML page, the index HTML page is present. So I just added a default index HTML document alone in this default page. Hence it shows only the forward slash. And the next one is HTTP. Of course, we are seeing the HTTP communication. And then next one is the 1.1. You may wonder what is 1.1. In some cases, you might have seen 1.0, or somewhere you might have seen 2. What are these? These are the versions of HTTP. For example, if the web browser is using HTTP 1.0, then needs to establish a separate session for every request that it traces to the web server. But if it uses the version 1.1, only one session is enough to send multiple requests to the web server. So that is the advanced version of 1.0. So the 1.1 is advanced one. And the next one is host. Here the host is my web server IP, but mostly you will see the domain name here. Okay, the website name. Actually, this field mostly used to identify the website. For example, I'm just running only one website on my web server, but in some cases, a single web server might be running multiple websites in it. In such cases, this host name, this host field only will help the web browser to understand what website the request is coming for. And the next section is connection. The connection is keep alive. So we are using 1.1. The web browser is instructing the web server to keep the session. So the connection will be alive and it can be used for the upcoming requests. Next parameter is cache control. The cache is nothing but some details captured by the server for each request. When a web browser newly approaches a website, it simply catches few information from that web browser about the client. And the next parameter, upgrade insecure request. The upgrade insecure request simply the message sent by the web browser. Actually, the web browser informs the web server about the insecure unprotected request. And the next one is user agent. This one is very interesting. Along with the web request, the browser also sent its details to the web server. What is the web browser and what is the operating system the web browser is running on, and apart from that, the web browser details, the complete details it sent. And the next one is accept. Along with the above information, it sends the accept parameter and its value, which means it sends few format, text HTML. The HTML format it sends, the XML format it sends, because when a web browser responds to the web client for this request, the web browser should be able to understand the content sent by the web browser. So initially the web browser itself will inform web server about its compatibility. And the next one is accept encoding, and through this parameter the web browser informs the web server about the encryption, the encoding methods it support. And the accept language, similarly, it informs the compatible language. The web server, the web browser expects the content in US English language from the web browser. So that is what it informs in this parameter. And of course, this is the generated time, the request generated time. And next, let's see the response code from the server. Actually, the web server responds for this request, and the method version is same, and you can see the number 200 here. This is what called status code of web server. Whatever may be the request, it may be any kind of request, the web server will be responding some information along with this status code. By seeing the status code, you will be able to understand what type of, what is the response it received. For example, let me say here it is 200. The status code 200 indicates the resource is found. So whatever the browser requested is shared by the web server. So that is what indicated with this message 200 OK. In some cases, web server may not able to share the contents that web browser requested. In such cases, it responds with the appropriate status code. For example, let me show. This is my website. I know here in my website I'm only running the index page. I don't have any other path here. So by knowing that, I'm simply giving a path. Okay, I'm just trying to query the contents in a path home. Let's see what content we are getting. When I get this request, when I throw this request, I'm simply getting the response 404 not found. You may see the code here 404. It has a meaning. Let me show that. Now you are seeing the appropriate packet capture for that invalid request. Obviously you can see the status code here. Let me trace the HTTP stream here. So when I trace here, you can see the response with 404 not found. It means the web browser approaching the web server properly, but it is not seeking the information which is present in that web server. It has some invalid information which is not present in the web server. So that is why it gives with 404 not found. There are few other status codes, impressive status codes. Let me tell those status codes orally here. You may get 301 here. 301 moved permanently code. You may get that code when the resource is assigned to new permanent URL, which means you are requesting, you are accessing one URL, but when it moved to another URL, in that case you will be getting such response. Now let me give an example for the status code 301. I am trying a popular website, davidbumble.com. He is one of my favorite YouTubers. So I am trying this website. I know the davidbumble.com website is running on HTTPS, but by knowing that, I am giving HTTP instead of HTTPS. So what happens? When I give this request, the web server will simply redirecting my request to the HTTPS website. You can see now I am on secured website HTTP. Yes, but I gave HTTP request only. What happens at the background? It simply redirected the web request. So in that cases, we will be getting the status code as 301, and the 302 is almost similar. When the resource is temporarily moved to another URL, in that case the web server will throw the 302 status code, and the status code present in the 300 range all indicates the redirection. When your website is redirecting, you will get the status code in 300 series. By seeing the series, you will be able to understand it. And when it is 200 series, the web server successfully shared some resources to the web client. In such cases, you will be getting 200 series status code. And next, 400 series. Of course, when you get 404, the content is not found, which means the request itself wrong, because the user requested an invalid directory. The directory is not present in the web server. So in that case, it gives 404. So something has to be changed at the client end. So whenever you are getting the status code 400, you need to check your request. Of course, you have to go through and you have to change the request, what mistake you are making. And the 403 forbidden. So this is an interesting status code. Sometimes you will get 403 and the status code is, the word is forbidden. Not all the websites are authentication free. Some websites are secured with authentication. So when you authenticate successfully, you will be able to see such few contents. So in that case, when you are directly accessing a secured content without an authentication, in such cases, you will be getting the status code 403 forbidden. So when you get such status code, you will be able to understand we need to authenticate somehow. Sometimes you will get 500 series code. For example, 500 internal server error. In such cases, you may assume there is some issue in the server level. So whenever there is some problem in the server, you will be getting such status message. So each status message indicates something. It gives some information to us. So as a penetration tester and cyber hacker, you should understand each and every HTTP message that you are getting. Then only you will be able to understand the behavior of the web application. Okay, I hope we took a long time in this status code line. Let's move to the next one. The date, response generated time is shown here, and the third one is very important for the penetration testers. Along with the response, the web server gives about its version. So what, and also the operating system the web server is running on. So this request is, this particular message is very important. When you get the version of the web server, you will be able to check for the vulnerabilities for this version, so which will be used for the further exploitation. The next one is content length, the length of the content shared by the web server, and the keep alive time. It also mentions the time of keep alive. So during this, so until this time, the session will be exist, the session will be available, and the connection is keep alive, of course. Even the requester requested the same. And the next thing is content type. The web server also mentioning the type of content it is sharing to the web browser. So it is sharing HTML content. So the HTML content will be read by the browser. So this is what the header, the request header and the response header. Below that, you will be able to see the response shared by the web server. When I see this successful request, the whole HTML format content is displayed here. So far I used only Wireshark Packet Analyzer to show this HTTP request and response. We have few other interesting tools to show this. Now let me show an application working on console. So from console, we will be able to give the HTTP request and we will be able to get the HTTP response. I installed the application in Kali Linux machine and the application name is Netcat. You can simply enter NC or Netcat to get that. When you click -H, you will be getting the help menu. I have a direct connectivity to the web server from my Kali machine, so connectivity is not a problem. Netcat -V for verbose, so it will give the verbal response. Then the IP address of web server or domain name in other cases, and the port. You can see the connection to my web server and the port succeeded. The TCP HTTPS, the connectivity established. Now we are see the cursor here. You will be able to type the request that we seen in our packet capture. The path I mentioned, http:/1.1. When I give enter, it sends the request, but it gets the response from the web server. The response is 400 bad request. I mentioned before, when you get the status code in 400, there must be something wrong in your request, because I didn't give a whole request. First of all, I just gave only one line of the request. That is why it gave this bad request status code. So this is one of the tools that we can use to query the web server. Why don't we try a HTTPS website in the Netcat? Let's do that. I'm just trying the David Bombal website and the port is 443. When I give this, the connectivity established successfully. Let me share some query. Get HTTP 1.1 version, and the next one is host. Host is www.davidbombal.com. I gave first 2 lines. Now I need to press enter twice. I gave my request, but I didn't receive any response because the Netcat only supports HTTP websites, only port 80, the plain text web traffic. It won't support the secure SSL web traffic. Here, the David Bombal website is secured website, hence I'm not able to query and get the response from the web server by using the Netcat. And in order to query such HTTPS secured websites, we have another exclusive tool called OpenSSL. I'll explain about the OpenSSL. I already installed OpenSSL here. Let's query a HTTPS website from the OpenSSL. OpenSSL, and the command is s underscore client. So this Kali machine is going to be my client, and hyphen connect and my domain name. I'm going to connect the domain networkchuck.com colon port number. The port number is 443. Yes, now I can see the connection is established. When I give a request here, I'll be able to get some response. Let me give some request here. Simple get method /. Oh, actually the session is expired. I need to request again. Rather than giving some web request and get some response, let's view the communication happened between the web browser and the web server to understand the SSL communication, because when you attend some interview, they often ask you about the SSL, how the SSL functions. So when you use this tool, you will be able to understand that method better. For that, just give a keyword called state. When you give the state here, show each and every state of the connection request and the response. Now you can see when you are trying to establish an SSL session with the web server networkchuck.com, first of all, the SSL is getting initialized, and then the SSL version 3 and the TLS client hello message is sent. The client first sending the hello message to the server, and after that server hello. The server says hello for the client hello message, and it reads the encrypted extensions. Here the encryption method is TLS version 1.3, an advanced one. When I scroll below, I can see the details of common name and the certificate details. SSL version 3 TLS reads server certificate. The server shares the certificate and the client reads that certificate. The client actually verifies that server certificate. When the server certificate validation is finished in the client end, now the certificate exchange, the server certificate validation is accomplished. After that, you can see the certificate information here. You can see the chippers being used in this SSL exchange. These are the chippers is going to protect the communication between my machine and the NetworkChuck's web server. So it does the SSL handshake to mutually agree the chipper that is being employed. You will be able to see the detailed SSL handshakes here. Particularly when you are preparing for an interview, it will be very useful. It validates the session information. It gives each and every information, each and every details that is being exchanged between the client and server. And yes, this is what I wanted to share. I hope I shared everything that I thought to share. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider subscribing my channel and hit the like button. You can also share this video among your friends who are preparing for penetration testing and networking. And yeah, that's all I've got. I'll meet you with another exciting video. Until then, signing off. Bye.